Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into my craft room. Let's just try and sort the leads out. And welcome to a Stamp and Chat Live. This is something I haven't done for ages. And so I'm really hoping that I can remember how to do it. I can remember which buttons to press and at what time, and that everything is going to work okay. So I'm just blue tacking my grid paper down. I've got a few updates for you, and then I'm going to have some fun with ink, doing one of my favourite things, which is creating inky backgrounds. Okay, let's get this grid paper stuck down. So hopefully it will stay in place. I should probably end up having to move it a little bit in a minute. And next thing I have to do is to check that I am there and you can see and hear me okay. So if you're watching, do let me know. Hear me okay. Okay, so on my iPad I can hear myself, which I'm hoping means that you can hear me as well. So I've got that there to hopefully see any of your comments. So yes, long time no see. I think you probably all know by now that I had COVID. I came down with it nearly 5 weeks ago. I was pretty poorly for about 2.5 weeks. I was back at work last week and this week, but only part-time, and I'm going to be part-time next week as well because I just can't manage a whole day. It's left me very tired, and I must be getting better because I'm feeling very frustrated with it all. But the main thing is I'm getting better. I wasn't nearly as ill as many people, and I'm thankful for that. So thank you for waiting patiently for me to come back here. An important thing I need to tell you is one of the things I thought about while I was sitting on the sofa was classes and what I do and so on, and I've made the decision to do a Facebook Live twice a month. So instead of every Friday, it will be the second Friday and the fourth Friday of the month. So here we are, today's the second Friday of the month. So the next time I will be here with you crafting will be the 23rd of June, all being well. I will aim to put up a Facebook event a few days before each Friday that I'm going to be here to tell you what I'll be doing, and so you remember that it's that Friday. But hopefully the second and the fourth Fridays of the month will make life a little bit easier for you. I've been trying to balance what I do when I do it in the month a little bit and cut down on my workload very slightly, because things were getting a little bit out of hand. I love what I do, and it's very easy for me to take on too much and do too much, and something had to go, and it probably took me sitting on the sofa not working to realise that I was at that point. So this is one of the things that I'm going to be changing going forward. Okay, so there's no comments yet that I can see, but I'm hoping everything looks and sounds okay. So I would love to know what you've been doing. I feel very out of touch with everybody. I had to cancel some classes, which was horrible because I love seeing everybody, and I also hate to let people down, but it's been very nice starting to catch up with people again. But do tell me what you've been up to, particularly if I haven't seen or heard from you for a long time. I'm going to run through a few updates for you. There's quite a lot happening with Stampin' Up at the moment. For the whole of June, there is a patterned paper sale. There's 15% off all the packs of patterned paper on pages, now I marked this so I could tell you properly, pages 129 to 132 in the annual catalogue. So I will run through the titles of the packs very quickly for you, and then you can always go back and have a look and a check if I've told you which ones they are. So it's the Bright and Beautiful, that's a 6x6 pack. Countryside Inn, that's the beautiful blue patterns. Delightfully Eclectic, that is like a double-sized pack with all kinds of patterns in it. Earth and Elegance, which is beautiful kind of browns and blue tones. Fresh as a Daisy, you've seen me do lots with that already. Glorious Gingham, which is 5 colours of different kinds of gingham, very usable. Hello Irresistible, this is a 6x6 paper which is in the online exclusive, so you won't find it in the catalogue, but it is included in this particular patterned paper sale. So you can see that if you go online, go to my website, which is sallybowman.stampinup.net, and either search for Hello Irresistible, which is what it's called, or look for the online exclusive section. You'll be able to see it there. Also Inked Botanicals, that's a 6x6 paper pack which I've just started using and it's absolutely gorgeous. Les Shop, which is all about shops and shop fronts. Let's Go Fishing, which is terrific. My son is a great fisherman. I think he's up to 20 species he's caught so far this year, so he's very happy with that. Masterfully Made, which is beautiful, beautiful paper, gorgeous colours. Stargazing, which is the planets and the constellations one. And Zoo Crew, which is the funky, cute little animals with black and white patterns on the back. So all of those are 15% off for the whole of June. So if you've had your eye on some of the paper, don't miss out, get it with a discount. Why wouldn't you? And if you're one of those people who can't bear to use their patterned paper because it's too beautiful, then buy a pack to use and buy a pack to keep. And then you can always have some to stroke, even if you've used some of it. And if you're buying it in the sale, that's not so bad, is it? So Mary's saying it's good to see me back. Thank you so much, Mary. I appreciate that very much. It's lovely to be back. Also happening this month is a special joining offer. I talk about joining Stampin' Up quite a lot. There's so many things I like about it, but it's a really good idea if you've got a huge wish list, or if you're wanting to just build up your crafting stocks, then joining is a great way to do it because you get a discount on all your orders. And joining itself gives you lots and lots of things for free, and you can choose what they are. So during June, you will pay £99 and you will choose £154 worth of Stampin' Up products. So that's the special offer, a lot for free, £55 worth for free. That would make a little hole in your wish list. There are lots of other nice things about being a part of Stampin' Up. You can, of course, make a little bit of extra money like I do, but you don't have to. You don't have to run classes if you don't want to, but if you can, I can help you get started. You can also come along to the exclusive Stampin' Up crafting events. I've got one in just a couple of weeks that I'm really looking forward to doing. I guarantee you will make new crafting friends. I run events just for people who join with me, and you can get your hands on the catalogues and on the products early. So lots and lots of lovely ways to get more products, do more crafting when you join Stampin' Up. So if you're thinking about it, let me know. I can always answer your questions for you. And today is the last day for you to book for my July card class, whether you want to come to the in-person one or the by post version, where I send you everything in the post and then make you some videos for the actual making up of the cards. Either of those, let me know by the end of today, please, and then I can get you in on the list. So let me move those things out of the way. And I think it must be time to turn the camera down now. I've just realised I need something to put over the lens so all the movement doesn't upset you too much. Here we go, bit of washi tape. See if I can find the end, and let's see if I can remember all the buttons I have to push to move the camera down. Have I told you what I'm doing today? I've said yes. I've said we're going to do some inking, haven't I? So I've got two methods to suggest to you for making sunrise or sunset backgrounds for your cards. I love to play with ink. It's a relatively cheap material. If it goes horribly wrong, it's only ink and a bit of card, so it's not like, you know, you've just cut up a sheet of beautiful pattern paper and then realised you've done it wrong. Ink and paper is not expensive, which I think gives a lot of people more confidence to play. And it's just a lot of fun. The results can be planned to a certain extent, but there are always things which happen which are unexpected, and they're usually better than what I had planned. So I've got two different methods to show you today. I'm going to be using blending brushes, and then I'm going to use just ink pads. If you don't have blending brushes, you can always use sponge daubers or pieces of sponge to pick up the ink instead of the blending brushes. You'll get a slightly different result, but it will work, and you will find that you can get beautiful sunrises and sunsets too. And then I've got a couple of samples to show you which use the same techniques but are not sunrises or sunsets, just to show you that it's actually far more versatile than it might at first seem. So I'm just going to be demonstrating the techniques today and then showing you some samples. I won't actually be making up any cards today. I thought I would ease myself in gently. So I'm going to cover you over, and then I'm going to monitor the settings and move everything down. So let's hope everything is still here as it was last time I did one of these. It looks like it probably is, but I never know until I actually reveal everything how good my placement of everything is. You'll know that, you'll remember, won't you? Okay, so here we go. Let me take the tape off. Okay. No, wrong way. Still doing it the wrong way. That hasn't changed, has it? Okay, I need to coil up this lead a little bit, just to get it out of the way, but to give myself enough lead that I can actually move. It's very easy for me to tie it up so tightly that I've then found I can't move anything. Okay, just bear with me while I clip this up. Okay, right, that's still not straight, is it? What do I need to change to make that straight? Maybe tilt it that way? No, wrong again. It's a little bit better, I think. I want it straight for you, or as straight as I can get it. No, that's still wonky. Okay, there we are. That looks more like it. Okay, off we go. All right, so I'm going to put a small piece of grid paper down just to catch the worst of the ink, so that what's underneath the next project isn't distracted by all the ink that's going to end up on here. So I have lots of colours of ink here. I have Berry Burst, Poppy Parade, Night of Navy, Gorgeous Grape, Highland Heather, Crushed Curry and Flirty Flamingo. Now I may not use all of them, but I might. So there we go, that's the list. I've realised one of the things that I've seemed to have forgotten how to do is to actually write nicely. My writing's never been the best, but it's pretty scrawly. I don't think I've written anything for so many weeks. So my apologies for that. So for this technique, I'm just going to be blending ink using blending brushes. And I've got several of them here. I have them for colour families, so I've got one for pinks, purples, yellows and deeper blues. And I just clean them off on my paper in between. I don't have one for navy and one for berry burst and so on. You could, but I don't find that's necessary. And I've just got some basic white card here. You do want a decent quality stamping card. Our basic white is perfect because it's got a super smooth surface, and what you want is to be able to blend the ink. If you've got a cheap white card, the ink is likely to absorb straight into it, and then you can't actually blend it. You will end up with blobs and stripes of ink. So if you're just using whatever white card you happen to have at home and you're not getting the results you want, it's always worth getting a decent quality stamping card with a really smooth finish. So there we go. Excuse me drinking. I find I need to drink a lot of water at the moment, otherwise I'm just coughing at you. Okay, now I'm going to think about creating a sunset. So I'm thinking more vibrant colours, bright reds and oranges, and getting deeper and deeper as we get towards the bottom. So I'm kind of thinking about sunset over the sea, because that's where I see a lot of sunsets. I love to be by the sea, and I'm lucky enough to live close to the coast here. And then I'm looking at my ink pads here, and I'm going to pick lighter colours for the top and darker colours for the bottom. So let's have a look. What have I got? I've got Crushed Curry, which is fairly light. So let's start with that. So I'm going to pick up some of the ink on my brush, and then sometimes I have a clear block that I blend the ink on just to make sure there's no big blobs sitting on the hairs. But today I'd need so many blocks because I'm using lots of colours. I'm just going to use my grid paper. So I just work round around a little bit, and that just helps to make sure that if, let's say I've just re-inked my ink pad and I've maybe left a lot of ink in one place and it's picked up on my brush, I don't get a blob. And then I'm going to move my hand in the air, and therefore my brush is moving as I make contact with the card. And whether you're using a dauber or a sponge or a brush, have your hand moving before you touch the card. And then I'm just working round and round in a circle and kind of up and down or forward and back depending on which way you're holding your card. And then I'm actually going to ink over an area that is wider than I want to be yellow. Now I haven't got this measured out, I haven't got these marked out, I'm doing the whole thing by eye, and that works absolutely fine. Don't be too rigid in what you think you're going to do. If you can stay fairly flexible, then you are likely to be happier with your result. So let me lift that up and try and show you. Alright, so I've now got my flirty flamingo here. Pick up some of that. And I'm going to blend in again. And I'm blending over some of that yellow. And I'm also going to come and blend in from the other side and go across. So I'm not actually doing a stripe all the way. Hoping that will show up. So I've got flirty flamingo here to about halfway, and then flirty flamingo coming across there. So some of it goes over the yellow, and this one a little bit lower does not. So now let's go Poppy Parade. I'm using my pinks brush for this. It's red really, but I'm sure that will be fine. And this time I'm going to, again, move, then make contact with my card, then come across. This is quite a lot more vibrant. But I'm still blending. I'm going to put a little bit at the top here as well. So I haven't re-inked the brush, so there's less ink on it. But I don't want to have too much of a stripy card. Now I don't know exactly how this is going to come out, and if I did another one afterwards it would be different again. So it will be different every time, but in my mind I'm wanting to blend the colours, not have too stripy a look, and work from lighter to darker, and then my thinking is it will go up this way, but I find it easier to work kind of up and down like that, which is why I've turned my card. So this ink is Berry Burst. And again, I'm moving my hand before I make contact with the card. And I'm going to go a long way across, but probably not all the way. And then I'm going to come down a little bit lower again. So again, I've got a kind of a rough line coming from one side down, and then from a little bit further along going up. It's a little bit blotchy, but I'm not too worried about that, because the more ink I add, the more that will blend out smoothly. So I'm moving on, and I can come back with any of the colours and work over a piece again, and I probably will. So this is my purples brush. This is Highland Heather, which is a kind of a mid purple, not too dark, not too light. And this is actually, I don't think I blended the ink very well on the brush, so I've actually got a few little blotches, but I'm really liking that. That's a happy accident. So I've blended it around the Berry Burst, a little bit over the Berry Burst, and then I'm going to come up as well and just blend into that Flirty Flamingo just a little bit. And it's, you can't really tell it's purple, but it's just changing the colour a little bit. So let me turn it this way around now. So here I've got a few little kind of streaky blotches, and I'm rather liking that, because you know, you get those little clouds, don't you, in the sky that pick up colour differently. So that's not a problem for me. I'm going to add a little bit more Highland Heather below, I think. There we go. Alright, let's come in with Gorgeous Grape. is a darker purple, a bit more vibrant. And I'm going to go right across, and then I'm going to go down to the bottom just in a couple of areas, because I'm going to bring in some navy. So I want my navy, some of it to be sort of true navy if you like, and other parts of the navy to perhaps be a little bit purpley. And I'm kind of blending some of that grape up as well. Okay, so you can't do this wrong. I haven't re-inked it again. There's only little traces of purple on the brush, but it just helps to blend the colours together. So that's where we are so far. That way, sorry. Let's put some navy on, and then we'll have a bit of an assess. See where we are, see what we need. Got a bit of a blob coming on with that. I just want to make sure that doesn't transfer to this, or hopefully it doesn't. So again, moving my hand in the air, and then moving lower, and then hitting the card. And by hitting the card when I'm moving, that is the best way to avoid blobs and blotches. And again, now I'm moving up a little bit in a couple of places, just so that I've got different colours in different areas. And I want down the bottom to be quite dark. When I finish this piece, I don't know whether I'll be doing a beach scene or what. I don't know what I'll be adding to it. So I want this to be dark enough that, you know, I can make it into the sea, I can make it into the beach, I can make it into the land. And I'm just going to add some more navy again right at the bottom. So I took some extra off the brush then, and then I'm just going to use the brush which has got pretty much no ink left on it, just to really blend across that. By now this card has got a lot of ink on it, and it's getting easier and easier to blend the colours. The more ink you have in the card, the easier the blending is. Quite often people get a bit of a blobby bit, don't like it, and they stop. And actually you're better off adding ink and then keeping on blending, and you'll often find that you can blend away a blob. So that is my sunset, which I think is rather gorgeous. I'm really pleased with that. So I'll put it down along with the colours again, which hopefully you can read. If you can't, let me know and I'll read them out. And then I've got a finished card to show you where I used this ink blending technique. Thank you, Andriana. I'm glad you like it. Yes, I'm not sure what I will do with that, but it's going to be nice, I think. Okay, so here is a card which is a finished project. So I used different colours for this, but exactly the same blending technique. There we go. So these are the colours I used for this one. Balmy Blue, Boho Blue, Lost Lagoon, Lemon Lolly, Bubble Bath, Fresh Freesia, and Garden Green. And then I did all my stamping in Pebbled Path. I used Grassy Grove for my stamped images. I'll lift that up for you and just let you see a little bit of detail on that. So there's lots of generational stamping here, so where I've inked and stamped off and then stamped on my project, or inked and stamped off twice or even 3 times, because I wanted that kind of misty, ethereal look, because this to me is a dawn rather than a sunset, although it doesn't have to be. I live in the New Forest. I've often driven across early in the morning and seen deer, and they're kind of half lost in the mist, and you have these beautiful delicate colours in the sky as the sun rises. And I put yellow down here to suggest the sun coming up there. Linda, hi, I'm so pleased you're here. I'm much better, thank you. Yeah, I'm still working part-time. I can't manage a whole day yet, but I am certainly a lot better than I was. I'm glad you're enjoying the colours. All right, so here's an actual finished ink blended thing, and if I just pop that one next to it again, you know, you can see that I will be able to do something similar with that. I particularly like silhouettes stamped against these blended backgrounds. I often use black, but these colours were too delicate for black, so Pebbled Path was the answer. And it doesn't look it, but that piece of card is exactly the same size. So that's 5.5 by 3 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so let me show you a second technique, and actually I can use the other side of this, I think that's fine. So this time, instead of using blending brushes, I'm just going to use the ink directly from the ink pad. I call this the swiped ink technique. There's probably a proper name for it, but I don't know what it is. If you do, let me know. So again, I've got basic white card here. I've got those ink colours that I listed just now. So if I'm moving from light to dark, I've got Bubble Bath, which is one of the new colours as a pale pink, Fresh Freesia. I've got Lemon Lolly, which is also new, Balmy Blue, Boho Blue, and Lost Lagoon. And I have got Garden Green, but I may not use it. We'll see. We'll see how dark I end up wanting to go. So I'm going to do a kind of a dawn version this time, and I'm going to work mostly from light to dark, but you will see that I do blend the colours a little bit. And you want to have your ink pads fairly juicy for this. When you're working with them, if you find they're dragging on the card, you probably, well, try a lighter touch, try not to press so hard, but probably you need to re-ink your ink pad. And when you close your ink pads like this, open them up but then slide them is what I mean, you'll see that at one end you've got the ink pad much nearer to the edge than at the other, and it's this edge here where you haven't got much of the box between the air and the ink pad. That's the edge that you want to use direct on your card. So all I'm going to do is turn over my ink pad, hold it at a slight angle, and swipe some ink onto my card. Now, the ink pad is made of a foam, a firm foam, but it's obviously quite soft. So what I don't want to do is cut it on the edge of the card. So be a little bit aware of what you're doing, but it works just fine. And I quite like partial swipes. So I'm not trying to get the marks all the same width. I'm not trying to join them up necessarily. I'm just getting some pink on there. And I may come back and put some more pink on there in a minute. So I'm going to do yellow next. This is Lemon Lolly because this is also quite pale. What I don't want is to contaminate my pale ink pad with a darker ink. So at the moment these inks are drying very, very quickly, but as I work on the card and get more and more ink on there, it will take the ink longer to dry. So I am going to be aware of that. I may even have to wait a moment or wave it about to dry it off. You can also use a heat tool to dry your ink. But what you don't want is to be swiping ink, particularly a pale ink, over the top of ink that's already down there, and some of that ink is going to transfer to your ink pad. So just be aware. So there we are. So again, I'm going to have this way up when I use it, but I find it easier to work towards or away from myself in that direction. I'm trying to get this in shot. I'm not very good at this, as you can see. I have to do everything kind of the opposite way around, and my brain doesn't work well that way. So that's some pink and some yellow. Let's do Fresh Freesia next. So this is a light kind of pinky lilac. So I'm going to come over the top of some of those colours I have down, and also try to put some of this in some of the white space. There we are. So I'm thinking about my colours a little bit. I thought about them the most at the beginning when I picked them. I just picked colours I thought would work together and would give me a bit of a graduation from lighter colours to, well, they're not very dark in this, medium colours for this dawn scene. So that I'm working light to dark by and large, although I may mix that up a little bit later. But I'm not thinking really about placing the colour particularly. I'm trying to get some of the pure colour showing, so there we go there. I'm also adding some, so you can see here, where are we? Here's some fresh freesia on white card. Here's some fresh freesia on top of that yellow. So it's completely different when you mix them, and I definitely want some of that. Belinda says she's never been brave enough to try it, but it looks fab. Give it a go, Belinda. I guarantee you will have fun. And you can't do it wrong. You really can't do it wrong. So this is balmy blue. So again, I'm going to add some up here and then add some onto the white card. So I'm giving just a light touch. Again, I've got the ink pad slightly angled. I'm not trying to get complete stripes right the way across the card. You can do that. I prefer partial ones, although down here I've got some sort of more or less straight across. So again, where that's gone onto the yellow, it's a little bit more green. Where it's on the white card, it's the true blue colour. I've got boho blue as well. Let's try that. This is one of the new colours. So this is much darker. So I've put quite a lot of that down. It's going to have other colours coming on top. Let's put it this way. There we are. When you stamp with it, actually it's not that dark, but it's a lot darker than balmy blue. So I've got Lost Lagoon next. Again, some on its own on the white card and some covering over some of the previous colours. And I'm just kind of having a look now. I want a little bit darker towards this end, but that doesn't mean I can't add just a little bit higher up. And already this is looking like dawn over the water to me, because this is actually starting to look like the sea down here. So let's see if it looks like that when I finished it. So I wasn't sure about garden green. I am going to use some garden green. Now that's starting to look like the sea. And actually I'm going to now do some at a little bit of an angle, because I quite like to see if I can get some movement in there. Now I've decided that we've got the sea here. And that's quite wet now. There's a lot of ink on there. So I'm going to come back across there with some of that diagonal movement, using the Lost Lagoon and the blues as well. I'd quite like to leave a little bit of white if I can, just to look like the top of the waves. And I'm probably going to add some Wink of Stella as well. Now I've decided that's the sea. I also want to get some of this reflected in the sea, because if you go out at sunrise you often get the colours on the water. So I didn't know that was going to become water. I was expecting to really just do a whole sunrise, but that's the way it's ended up. So I'm just going to give this a bit of a wave, make sure that that dries off before I bring in any pale colours. Okay, so let me come in now with, what should we use? Let's use some balmy blue so I don't get too dark. And I'm just bringing in some kind of slightly angled swipes just to try to add some blue to that feeling of the sea moving. Still got some white card there which I want. And what should we have in there? Let's have a little bit of bubble bath next. I do want to make sure that I don't get blue or green in my bubble bath colour though. Let's just wave that around. I should have brought my heat tool, but I haven't. Okay. So I'm aiming mostly for those little white areas. I don't want too much on there, just a hint of that reflected dawn sky in the sea. Belinda's asking which card I'm using. I'm just using basic white, Belinda. You definitely want a card that's designed for stamping, because you know that the inks will take nicely, they'll absorb and dry quickly, but you've also got the ability to blend on the card. But it's nothing fancy, it's our basic white card, so it works beautifully on this. Alright, so I'm now going to come in with Lemon Lolly and just add a little bit of this. It's mostly going over those blues and greens, but it's just given me some kind of paler green, because of course if you add yellow to blue or yellow to green, you get green. There we are. I think that is probably as much as I'm going to do on that right now, but I am going to find my Wink of Stella, which is somewhere over the back here. Let's see. Give it a really good shake. I don't know how much is left in this. I've got another one if there's not much. It looks like there is still some in it. So what I'm going to do is try and get some sparkle on what is the waves there. So I'm going to hold it at the end, which means I've got less control. And that means that I'm not going to be trying too hard to get something perfect. And I'm just going to work quite quickly. I'm working roughly parallel with some of my ink swipes and just laying down some lines of Wink of Stella. But I don't want it to look too thought out, too exact. There we are. So I hope, if I tilt that, I hope you'll be able to see it. I don't know how well that's showing. A little bit. It's very easy to put too much Wink of Stella on if you like it as much as I do, but I am going to add just a little bit more, just some kind of shorter lines. There we are. Put it down, Sally. Again, I'll try and tilt it and see if I can get the light to catch it. Maybe you can see. I hope so. So let me just move that. I'll show you again the colours if I can find them. How can I have lost that list? Oh, here we are. There we are. I've just ripped something off the bottom that was relevant to the last card, but not this one. So Balmy Blue, Boho Blue, Lost Lagoon, Lemon Lolly, Bubble Bath, Fresh Freesia and Garden Green, plus a little bit of Wink of Stella. So Belinda says it resembles looking through reeds to a beautiful scene. Actually it does. It does. Yes. I'm going to enjoy finishing this one. Thank you, Belinda. Okay, so that was kind of a sunrise, if you like. It could be a sunset easily, but I was thinking sunrise because it's fairly gentle pale colours. So let me show you the same technique now done as a sunset, which is here. Now for this one I used the same colours as I did for this blended card. Believe it or not, it looks completely different, but it's the same colours. So let me bring back that list for you. I'll lift it up in a sec. Here we go. So I finished this card using the Oceanfront set. I've actually stamped in black down the bottom. You can't see very much. It's very, it's a dark background. So I've stamped in black on top. But there are some reeds and some little grasses and some boulders here. And then I've used the gull from Waves of Inspiration And then I just added a little bit of kind of visual texture to the card base using an image from Oceanfront again. Thank you for the hearts. So same colours as this card, different technique and totally different effect. In fact, it's astonishing how different it looks. And then of course I was playing and I didn't want to stop, so I kept making these and they look good anyway. And then that got me thinking, so then this is not a sunrise or a sunset, but it is the same technique and it's the same colours you've just seen. So for this one I used the Stargazing Suite. Let me lift this up. So I made the background piece in exactly the same way, except I focused the darker colours in the middle. They ended up on a slight angle, which wasn't deliberate, but I just went with it. I'm glad you like that one. My daughter is mad keen on a space, so this one will be winging its way to her, I'm sure. And then I just turned it the other way, so we've actually got the lines going vertically. And if you ever watched Star Trek, it reminded me a little bit of Star Trek at the beginning, where you're kind of whizzing through the galaxies and all the stars kind of go into lines because they're going so fast. Do you know the bit I mean? So that made me think of that a little bit, and that got me onto the rockets and things. So I did add some streaks of Wink of Stella, just as you've seen me do. Again, I don't know if you'll be able to see them. So running in the same direction as the inked swipes, and then I also spattered with Wink of Stella. And then the space shuttle is a stamp from the Reach for the Stars set. The planet is die cut using the Reach for the Stars dies from the Stargazing paper, which is in the sale. I used some of the holographic card for the stars and the rings. I don't know if you can see. The die does actually emboss those rings. Don't think it's picking that up, but it looks like multiple rings. And I also used some of the dies to deboss the card, so I'm calling them dies. They don't actually cut, they just deboss these kind of circles, which are a bit like constellations in my background card. So same technique, same colours, two completely different results. So I thought that was quite fun. And then I do have one more to show you. Let's see if I can reach it. It's on the floor. Because when I'm ink blending, I don't really want to stop, whichever technique I'm using. So using this same technique with the brushes, I decided to make an underwater scene. So I got out my sea turtles, which I do really love. So this is obviously not a sunrise or a sunset, although I suppose they could be swimming at sunrise or sunset. So I use Lemon Lime Twist, Lost Lagoon, Pretty Peacock, Azure Afternoon for the inking. And I've got some kind of streaks of green going down here. It gets darker at the bottom, and then I've stamped from the Sea Turtle set on there. So thank you for the love for that card. I'm really pleased with that one as well. So I do hope I've inspired you to have a go. If you haven't had a go, then this one you can use whether or not you have ink blending brushes. Just grab some ink pads. It doesn't matter how many you have. You can do this with just 3 colours, 3 or 4 colours. I like to use about 6 or 7, but you don't have to at all. Have a go and just make a whole series of scenes, and then you can look at your stamps and see what you want to include with them. Let me bring back that one. So you can do sunrise, you can do sunset, you can do underwater, you can do space. All right, so I'm going to cover this the lens over and turn the camera back and just say bye-bye to you. So bear with me while I do that. in the right place. There we go. It's about there, I think, isn't it? Okay, I managed to get myself not upside down, so I will take that as a win. So Belinda is inspired to give it a go. I'm so pleased, Belinda. Lovely. I look forward to seeing what you make. So thanks very much for joining me, everybody. I hope you have a lovely weekend. I think it's going to be a hot one. Somebody told me there was a temperature warning for tomorrow, although my weather app hasn't told me that, but we'll see. Whatever you're doing, I hope you have fun. Drink plenty. Don't forget the sunscreen. And I will see you back here on the 23rd of June. So not next week, but the Friday after that. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you again. Bye-bye.